Good evening. Thank you for inviting me to your meeting. I appreciate the opportunity to update everyone on our most recent activities regarding our reimbursement issues. My name is Kathy Fabreo. I am the Executive Director of the Pharmacists Society of the State of New York. We also have Roxanne Richardson on the line, the President of the Pharmacists Society, and Jamie Cullis, who is the Director and Production Assistant for tonight's presentation. I'd like to start by reading the PSNI antitrust statement. The Pharmacists Society of the State of New York treats its obligations under the antitrust laws with the utmost seriousness and strives to avoid even the appearance of anti-competitive agreements among its members. Whether formally or informally, do not discuss individual member business matters regarding prices, participation in specific third-party programs, profits, geographic strengths and weaknesses, costs of doing business, refusals to do business with a supplier or a category of customer, market shares, marketing practices, or any other means of competition. Conduct all relations with competitors as if in the public eye, and avoid any action or statement, however innocent or well-intended, that could be misinterpreted as a signal to another member. When in doubt, refrain from any questionable activity or consult legal counsel. So, as you know, we have been made aware of specific reimbursement issues, and the facts as we know them are that on October 26th, a major PBM drastically changed its MAC list without the knowledge of the health plans or pharmacists with whom they have contracts. PSNI office is well aware of this. We are living, eating, and breathing this issue and have been for the last 2 weeks. We are very much aware from contacts with you, the pharmacists, about what is occurring and its impact on you and your businesses. And unfortunately, what we have learned is that the MAC appeal process of Section 280A of New York State Public Health Law is not providing the relief that was intended when the law was passed. Pharmacies are reporting to us that the appeals are being routinely denied without the required lower cost NDC number or wholesaler information, which is a direct violation of this law. The reimbursement issues started primarily in the Medicaid managed care plans, but are being seen sporadically in commercial plans as well. We have also learned that the problem is being experienced in other states as well, and have had discussions with the National Community Pharmacists Association in this regard. So, what is PSNI doing? PSNI has been in contact and continues to stay in contact with the following offices: the Governor's Office, the State Attorney General, the Medicaid Inspector General, and the General Counsel to the Department of Health. In addition, we are having conversations with legislators to determine what resources and assistance they can provide. We cannot talk about the specifics of what these offices are doing, but know that PSNI is in direct contact with them on a regular basis. They are also in contact with one another to determine the best solution to the problem that we are facing today. So what can you do? We strongly encourage you to continue to file MAC appeals. This is going to be your opportunity to keep information on the results of your MAC appeals. You're going to want to document everything. Who did you speak with? What was their response? When did they call, etc. This information is going to be very important for you to continue to push MAC appeals, and it may become more important at a later date to another entity. You can contact Caremark's department via phone or website, as you see on the screen. And we will share this information later so that you can have it at your disposal. We also encourage you to contact your PSAO. Although they were unaware in the beginning of this process that it was occurring, they are well aware now. And these entities work for you. You contract with them to do not only your contract negotiations, but frequently your MAC appeals processes. They need to help us help you. So please continue to put the pressure on them to do something. You can also continue to contact New York State Medicaid Managed Care until we do confirm that that MAC list is changing and changing significantly. So you can keep them informed through this email address or the phone numbers provided. And if your patients are upset, there's a separate phone number for them to call and make complaints. I will give you the caveat that if a patient calls in a complaint, it is our understanding that the Medicaid department will contact the managed care plan and expect them to respond to the complaint, which may in fact mean you get a phone call, again, about the patient and trying to get an understanding of what occurred. It's a bit of a circle, but I think it's important that we keep all of the parties informed of what is happening. And if the plan is feeling more pressure from patients, that's better too. You can call your state legislator and inform them of your experiences, the problems that are occurring. The more pressure your legislator receives from their constituents, the more likely they're going to take action. And it is an excellent opportunity to use this situation as an example of what a PBM can do and how quickly it can spiral into an enormous problem. That will be beneficial in the long game as we work towards some sort of regulation in the pharmacy benefit manager world. And if you have patients that are willing to call them, that's even more powerful. We've given you a couple of web addresses here where you can search for your legislator. And keep in mind that you probably have multiple legislators you can call. You are a voter from your home address, but you are servicing potentially a different legislator's district with your store locations. And those patients that you're serving are the constituents of that legislator. Just try to make sure that you explain that relationship when you have that phone call with your legislator. It is also beneficial to call your federal representatives. We've made the National Community Pharmacy Association aware of the situation in the similar way that we have contacted the Medicaid office in New York. They are contacting CMS at the federal level to make them aware of the situation. And therefore, if your federal representatives can continue to put pressure on at the federal level, that will push someone to take action as well. There are several bills in play at the federal level that would regulate pharmacy benefit managers. And this is, again, a wonderful example of why it's desperately needed. And it's a lot harder for your representatives to push back on that legislation when situations like this are occurring. So when you get the opportunity to speak to your legislator, what is it that you want to tell them? You want to report to them that patient access to generic drugs is a serious problem, and that health outcomes are going to worsen, rehospitalizations are going to occur if immediate action is not taken. Tell them that you are experiencing a drastic reduction in reimbursement that is so severe you are, tell them what this does to your inventory. Tell them what this does to make your business decisions. How can you move forward when you don't know what your income will be? How are you going to keep staff paid, and how are you going to keep the store open the hours that you might be accustomed to. There's a lot of indirect impacts that this is going to have, and the more your legislator understands, the better. Tell them that your recourse through the Section 280A law with the MAC appeal is being violated. Tell them this is a law you passed to support pharmacists and pharmacy in the state of New York, and it is not working. And put your personal experience and stories in front of them. Tell them how many MAC appeals you filed, how many have been denied. Are you getting the information you need on that denial? What is that doing to you and your business practices? What is the impact on your patients? So ask them to employ any tools at their disposal to help us. Ask them if they can to put pressure on their fellow legislators or the leadership in their conference, whether it's the Assembly or the Senate, to look at this situation. We do know, and we have been in contact with both of the health committee chairs, Assemblyman Gottfried and Senator Hannan. Both are very concerned, but it does help to have them keep hearing from the constituency that it continues to be a problem. This is an opportunity for us to show the legislators what power an organized pharmacy initiative can be. You're an important constituent of theirs, and you can provide them the insight to the inner workings of this system. You can tell them how PBMs control all the information and are largely unregulated. The legislators need to understand today's issue. What are you going through with this particular situation, and how that really is a symptom of the bigger problems of unregulated PBMs and some of their standard operating procedures. Some conversations we're having with one of our Assembly members is a letter to the editor. Her office is putting together what we hope will be placed shortly in one of the papers that the legislators read regularly. We're still working through that. It's not a guarantee that there will be one placed, but that was at the top of their list of considerations. So if possible, beyond the phone call, if you can manage a visit with the legislators, that would be very helpful. I understand you are just trying to keep things running right now, so it may not be possible at the moment. But if you can follow up at some point with a visit, it would be nice to make a personal connection with your legislator. I know there's many of you in the room that come to our lobby day regularly. I know there's many of you in the room that can pick up the phone and talk to your legislator on a personal level. And what we need to have happen here is have more and more of you develop that relationship and develop that ability to pick up that phone and have that call. It's a much easier to ask for help when you know them on a personal level than when you are a stranger to them. And as I described earlier, where you live and where you work, you have two sets of legislators that would be potentially interested in what is happening to your pharmacy. So in order to make an office visit, you should call the district office to make an appointment. Explain the urgency of this particular situation to get a quicker appointment. And if offered, please accept a meeting with a staff person. They are experts on particular topics, and almost every legislator has someone devoted to health care because it is such an enormous amount of information to keep track of. And these people are responsible for keeping the legislator informed and educated on the issues in healthcare. If you know the length of the meeting in advance, you can better prepare your materials and the information that you're going to share. And if we went back a couple of slides and we told them what you would be talking about, it would be similar in the office visit. We will be sharing the recorded webinar as well as a PDF of the presentation so that you can keep these phone numbers and these web addresses, etc., at your disposal. You want to be on time, you want to be prepared, you want to stay on one particular topic. They're going to ask you when you make that appointment, what do you want to talk to us about? And that's what you want to come in prepared to talk about. You don't necessarily want to negotiate a solution. Keep us informed about what their comments are, their questions, their concerns, because we are working on future legislation to address issues such as these. And we recognize that the long-term solution isn't what you want to talk about tonight, but we want to make sure whatever we get done and accomplished through this particular situation, we leverage into future legislation. So think situations like this can't happen again. A couple of caveats that you do not want to mention: campaign contributions during any legislative visit. And please keep in mind any patient privacy issues or other contractual legal obligations you have about disclosing specific information. You don't want to put yourself in jeopardy in these meetings. You want to give the legislator enough information for them to understand the situation and the issue, but without putting yourself at risk. And if you keep the goal in mind that you are building an ongoing relationship with this legislator, that will go a long way to getting the mission accomplished. And by telling them that the problem I'm bringing you here today, the urgency that you need to deal with today, is an example of the power and authority an unregulated PBM has on patient access to medications. This went into place October 26th, and it's astounding at how quickly things spiraled out of control from one PBM. And I think they have to understand and grasp the enormity of that in order for them to take it to the bigger picture. And PISNI will keep you informed through email. It's great you're here tonight. You're attending your affiliate meetings. We'll be sending out more information as it becomes available. We also want two-way communication. If you can keep your affiliate presidents informed as you're hearing of new situations, that would be very helpful, because then we feed it back to our channels, back to the state agencies we referred to earlier, the governor's office, the attorney general, etc., keeping them aware of what's happening next so that they can respond and incorporate it into their strategy to help you. So I did want to talk about one frequently asked question we get, and that is, can we file a class action lawsuit? Now, from what we understand, the contracts in this particular situation have arbitration clauses, which means that each pharmacist would have to arbitrate with the PBM individually, and the PBM will negotiate with each of you individually, and there will not be a change in their overall behavior based on any one individual outcome. It is, it's a very powerful tool in their contract to make it an arbitration situation rather than going through the courts, and that is unfortunate. So we do get posed that question several times a day, and we have looked into it, and it would be a process, and I believe, at least in New York City, Jim Schipper is in the room, and he has explained to us what it would take to move from an arbitration clause into a class action lawsuit, and then there is no guarantee of an outcome in your favor. So I think we went through that. I went through that pretty quickly, but I wanted to give you an overview of what we're doing, where we are. But I would like to take your questions. We're trying to manage the question process through an individual at each of the locations so that we can get to as many questions as possible.
All right, so Kathy, the first question that's been typed in here from Lips is, exactly what should we be saying to our representatives?
back to that slide. This gives you an overview of what you should be telling your representatives. Tell them about what has occurred, the facts. Tell them that you're concerned with patient access to the generic drugs if action is not taken. Tell them what impact it's having on your store personally. Well, you know, we don't know the details of that, and every one is an individual story. And we have heard many stories about what folks are, you know, concerned about doing. Being able to stay open the hours they were staying open in the past, being able to continue with free deliveries, etc. Those are the types of examples that are going to get their attention, because they're going to realize that their constituents are going to suffer as a result.
Okay. Our second question from Lips again is, how will patients be clued in to call as we cannot discuss our reimbursement with them?
That is a bit trickier, because that's correct. You don't want to discuss your reimbursement with them, but their pharmacies are experiencing patients coming to them who could not get a prescription filled from another pharmacy, perhaps, or there may be a situation similar to that in your own pharmacy. And if they're concerned, or likely, if you're unable to provide the delivery that you may have been providing before, it would give them an opportunity. It is a bit of a challenge, because they may not understand why something is happening, so the complaint may go into Medicaid in a manner that the patient isn't fully understanding why something is happening, but because Medicaid has to follow up with a managed care plan, and they have to determine the validity of the complaint, it will, like I said earlier, you will likely get a phone call. That is when you can explain the background and the details.
Okay. A question from New York. How can pharmacists reach out to a senator without being specific about a patient?
So without mentioning a patient by name, you can certainly use generic examples. You wouldn't name anyone by name. You wouldn't. But you could certainly speak to the fact of, let's say, for example, you operate near a hospital and you do a lot of transition of care prescriptions. That's, if you can explain that something is, what is happening in that situation, is that changing, is that becoming more challenging, that resonates with a legislator. Or if you have a particular population with, let's say you have a lot of asthma patients that you're treating, you can speak to what is happening to some of those asthma patients and their ability to get their inhaler or their spacers, etc., without naming names. And I'm sure you probably have a sense of the percentage of patients that are being impacted. That can be mentioned as well. But again, there's no names, but you've given them enough background for them to make it, to put a human face on the problem.
Okay. Another question from Lips. Have you heard of decreased reimbursements from other PBMs now, and which ones?
Well, I'm not going to name names, but we did begin to hear that there are of others. It hasn't taken to the level that we are dealing with on this situation, but we'll keep our contacts at the state level informed of what else we're hearing. But we did start to hear about that today.
Okay, something from New York has come in. It says, can we have a meeting with the Department of Health?
We meet with the Department of Health on a regular basis. We have a meeting scheduled with the Medicaid Inspector General. We would have to determine, I mean, that's really the role PISNY plays, that we go and we meet with the Department of Health and act as a go-between for your protection. We can go and we can bring them multiple examples from around the state of what's happening. And at this moment, they are responding, or at least we're beginning to see the responses. So I think they may, we have to be careful we don't antagonize them into a situation, put them in a situation where they're going to start working against us if they feel backed into a corner. So we'll keep it on our radar. We'll keep it in consideration, but we do have multiple meetings scheduled with them. And the leadership of PISNY, you know, the pharmacists do join us in those meetings so that they have the voice of pharmacy.
I do not see any more questions that are coming in.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you for giving me some time tonight. I know this has been an incredibly frustrating experience. It has been for all of us as well. We feel your pain and agony, and we're doing everything we can to rectify this situation. And we will keep you informed as things occur. And so, unfortunately, it seems to take a very long time when you're in the trenches and it's happening by the minute. But we are hard at work, and we are getting the attention of those that can help. So we are hoping very soon that this will turn the tide, and it is promising that the complaint area for Medicaid has responded, and it clearly has contacted CVS Caremark with the overwhelming amount of complaints they're hearing, and we will keep our eye on that and make sure that the resolution they provide is sustainable. Thank you.